Hello? Oh, there. Ooh.
How are you? Sorry.
Okay. How's this? How's this? Does that sound okay? Okay. Oh, good. Do you want to start us off, Miss Jacqueline? Or just.
All right, let's do it. Welcome all. Welcome everyone. So glad to have you here. And I'm so glad we're able to be on live stream. I hope you're tuned in. I know you're going to be blessed by this. David, thank you for making time. David is the head of school at Los Altos Christian School, and he has multiple talents. And one of them is when I met him, we were in a conversation, and I met him again at another meeting, and we were all animated, excited. But David was so calm and cool. I said, David, how come you're this way? Truly, I saw it in him. I said, you seem so peaceful. He said, well, I've worked on it. He was very humble. And he said, and also there's a technique to it. I'm like, oh, really? There is? I'd love to learn. So that's how this conversation started. I said, come and teach us. And so I'm so glad you're here. Welcome.
All right. Thank you, Miss Jacqueline.
Sorry, just because I have to go cough. Please start us off with prayer.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let us pray. Father, we just want to thank you for this evening. And Lord, may your spirit be here and connect us. And Lord, we believe that you are the Prince of Peace. And Lord, it is in you that we're going to be talking about peace. And Lord, thank you for the tools and the conversation that we're going to engage this evening. In Jesus' name I pray. Just a little introduction of myself. I was born in Taiwan, and I came here in middle school. When I came here in middle school, entering 7th grade, middle of the year, entering 7th grade, I did not speak any English at all. And I was thrown into a school. I have no idea what was going on. I was just kind of going with the flow. I go where my classmate tells me to go. There was really no one helping me. I just kind of tried to figure my way out. My parents came because they want to support my uncle who has a church in Sunnyvale area, and so that's why we came. So we trust God to bring us here to the United States, and we kind of just got thrown into the public school system. And as I grew up, we've been going to my uncle's church, and of course, I grew up in youth groups and started getting used to the Bay Area, and I've been here ever since. Went through college in San Jose State. I was always in the area. And one of the things that I saw in kind of just the peers that I grew up with and entering education right after college is as I'm watching kind of the Bay Area changed. I watched the Bay Area got a lot busier, a lot faster. And there's so many more two-income families in the Bay Area. When I talk to my friends and my peers, they're just like, I'm just at work all day. And then with the way work nowadays, we're working with people. A lot of my friends are working with people overseas. So they're working 24/7. Like, this is the world that we live in. And it's almost like there's no time for relationship or rest. I don't know about your church. Like, one of the things our church teaches a lot is that you have to schedule in rest. But that was so hard for working people, because when do we really schedule rest? And as I work with parents, I've been in education for almost 15 years now. As I work with parents like, I don't have time to really have conversation with our kids. A lot of times dinner is something like we eat on the road to the next activity. We're coming home from an activity. We're just busting our kids all over. And now on this side of the pandemic, as traffic begins to build up, there's a lot more time spent on the road, and we're just kind of in this frantic and chaotic stressors that we have, like all the classes we gotta go to, make sure our kids do the homework, that 20 emails from my child's teacher I gotta read, make sure don't miss a school event. There's just so many things that could rob us of our peace. And really, this is the world that we live in, right? Where this is what that picture behind us. There's so many different things that we just feel chaotic all the time. We're being pulled into different directions. And really, this is something that's not new. At the same time, it's not new. Like, it's something that Jesus himself has talked about. He says, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy, and I have come that they may have life and have it to the fullest, to the full. What Jesus here is talking about, like in this world, there are going to be distractions or things that's going to grab your attention because you feel like you need it. And there's a lot of things that we feel like we have to do, don't it? Isn't it? Right? We have work responsibility we have to fulfill. We have family relationships we have to maintain. We have kids we gotta take care of. We also have our personal health that we need to make sure we do our annual checkups, our dentist, figure out insurance and all of that. There's so many things that will come and will rob us of our joy. It's almost like we're drowning. Have you ever feel that like I'm drowning in my responsibilities? Like when I wake up in the morning, it's like I'm just listing all the things I have to do, but not the things I get to do. Because when we are feeling like, oh man, I have like 10, 20 things I have to do, sometimes I just don't have the motivation to get up because I feel like I'm drowning in responsibilities and obligations. And really what the Lord has called us to do is have peace in the things that we do, and we get to do these things. That's a subtle difference, but it makes a huge difference in how we approach our day. And I really lean into what Jesus has taught. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you, right? What Jesus had envisioned for his people here on earth is to have his peace. And he even specified, I do not give you to you, I cannot give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid. This world is going to try to tell you what peace is. This world is going to try to tell you, like, if you just have this one thing, you'll have peace. You'll have fulfillment. If you have, if you just go to this retreat and then you'll have peace there. Like the world is trying to tell you what peace is, but we know that God has given us supernatural peace that he gives us, not as the world gives us. So that's what we're going to dive into tonight. So we're going to spend some time working with this particular tool. And I apologize for that. So the tool is called the Peace Index. There is a number on top of our heads. We cannot really see it, but there's a number. There's a number of level of peace that we all feel. And that number changes depending on the situation we're in. So we're going to just use this tool to engage in some reflection this evening. So my hope and intent this evening is we're going to put a mirror up to help you to kind of see where you are with your peace that God has given you, where you are with that, and hopefully provide you with a window, a lens to then see if is there a way to work with the Lord to dial up our peace. So we're going to do this exercise together. I will walk you through it. If you have something to take note of, it might help you a little bit. And then we're going to be using percentage tonight. And I'll talk through kind of the process. We're going to go through each of the 5 circles on the outside. I'm going to describe that circle, and then you're going to give yourself a rating. Just kind of take a pulse about where you are tonight. What do you feel? Your level of peace in that particular area. And you're just going to write down a number. And just to share that at the end, we're going to average them together. So to make your life a little easier, pick 10%, 20%, or 30%. Avoid 37.5%. Like, that's not going to make the math so much harder later, okay? All right. So we're going to talk about purpose. One of the ways that God has given us peace is God has given us a destination. We are created in God's image. We're made for his work, and he has called us to do his work. And he has given us the gift and the ability and the gift to do that. So God has given you a purpose, you and I a purpose. So think about your purpose. Think about how you wake up in the morning. When you get up in the morning, how often do you say, oh, I get to go do this today? That's your purpose score. How much peace do you have in what you do every day? Give yourself a score. So think about what I get to do. What do I have to do? Do I know my gift? Do I know how I'm using the gift? And am I contributing to the kingdom or the place or the community God has put me in? What's your purpose score? So give yourself a percentage. Okay? And again, this is your own personal experiences. Your 70% might be someone else's 60%. You're not comparing with someone else. This is for you and your number only, okay? So you're giving yourself a score for purpose. Okay? Let's take a moment. So now you have the first number, so that's purpose. Really, purpose, again, is you affirming, this is what I'm supposed to do, this is what I get to do, I'm excited to do this. So as someone who has a lot of peace in this, they're excited to get the day started, okay? The next area that really impact our peace is people. So think about the 10 people that's closest to you. Think about your family, your parents, or your kids, or your spouse, or your friends, or your colleagues. Kind of think about 10 people that's around you that you can kind of think of their names. And think about your relationship with each one of them. How much peace do you have with the people closest to you? And give yourself a number, a rating for that. A percentage. How much peace do you have with all of your relationships, the closest to you? So think about 10 people. That's usually a good way to gauge how much peace you have in that area with the people. You can think about the last conversation you had with that person, the last interaction you had with that person, when that person's name show up on your phone, on the screen, what's your initial reaction? Right? That's usually a good indicator is how much peace you have with this particular person, right? All right, so think about people, because people do contribute to our peace score, overall peace index. So people. Okay. Now we have a number for people. We're gonna go around counterclockwise, so we're gonna go to personal health next. Personal health, let's think about your physical health. Do you have any aches or illness, or are you generally pretty healthy? And then think about mental health as well. How well do you handle stress? How often do you practice reflection, gratitude, those type of things? And for believers, how's your spiritual health? What's your relationship with the Lord? How often do you spend time with God? Like, how would you rate your personal health? So think about physical health, your mental health, as well as your spiritual health. What number would you give yourself? Think of a percentage. Okay. Again, make yourself life easier by choosing 10s, 20s, 30s in percentage. The next one we're going to go into is provision. Provision really means that the work that you put in and that income that you're getting, does it meet your basic needs? How comfortable are you with meeting the basic needs for you and your family with the income that you're earning? Okay? So provision. And again, everybody will be on a different spectrum or range. What feels comfortable, and we're talking about meeting basic needs here. It's like, do I have enough to do what God has given me to do, the people that I need to take care of? Does God provide for me what I need for my family? So that's provision. How much peace do we have in God's provision? And the last one is place. So this is kind of your physical place. So kind of picture your house and the rooms that you use, the bedroom, the kitchen, the living room. How much do you love and enjoy? How much peace does that place bring you? And also kind of think about your surrounding neighborhoods. How easy it is for you to access things that you enjoy, parks, restaurants, those type of things. Okay. As you're putting that number together and kind of think through these 5 categories, there is something called the key indicators. There's one of these circles that actually matters to you a lot more than the other 4. There is one, if that number is really, really good, usually the other numbers will also continue to increase. I'll give you my personal example. So for me, purpose is actually my key indicator. So if I know what I'm doing, if I know how I'm going to contribute to a community, or how am I going to contribute to my work, how is my work going to contribute to God's kingdom, then I feel really good. My peace goes up. Then I start to find like-minded people who also want to do this thing. I start getting really excited. My people score goes up. And maybe I'm not so satisfied with the way my office looks sometimes, but I'm okay. I instead of cleaning my office, I'm gonna do this one other thing because I feel really purposeful. So I'm okay with my place score, maybe have it a little bit lower, because my purpose score is higher. So if you have a specific circle that is a key indicator, that usually you care about that a lot more than the other 4, you want to put a star next to that. Because when we count peace index, you are going to count that twice. You're going to count it twice as much. You're going to weigh a little bit more. And there are people in this room where people is going to be a key indicator for you. If my families are happy with me, if I have a really good relationship with my family, everything else has to be as high. As long as that number goes up with my family, everything else will kind of also go up as well. So everybody's going to be a little different with our key indicators. When I did this with my wife, it was very eye-opening for me because my purpose score is really high. If my purpose, if it's really high and then I really know what I'm doing, my tendency is that I can ignore the people in my life in order to get that win. It's if I have peace in my purpose, my people score can be really low. My wife is very different. My wife is as long as my people score is really high, I really don't care about purpose all that much. So she that gets us to start having conversations about our tendencies, what we care about. So this tool gave us a common vocabulary to then talk about how we experience God's peace. Okay, so now we've done the work of kind of assessing each circle. We're gonna do the math together, okay? So add everything up together. If you have a key indicator, you have a star, you're gonna count that twice, and then you're gonna divide everything by 6. So that's your peace index score. So let's take a minute. And this is where I thank God for calculators. Yeah. Okay. And if you have your score already, here's my invitation for the next few minutes. Usually it helps for us to process what we just did together. So if you're sitting next to somebody and feel free to share as much as you feel comfortable to share. Say, as I'm kind of looking at my score, like what is jumping out at you? What is like an aha moment for you? Or like what's an aha for you? It's like, oh, I didn't realize about this. Share that with somebody to solidify this a little bit. I invite you to do that with people around you if you feel comfortable sharing. Okay. What about your last thoughts with one another? Okay. When I first took this tool, I started thinking about my own peace. I realized that if I want more peace, my tendency is I want to control what's around me. I want to control other factors. When I was a school administrator, when I was in elementary school as a principal, there were students under my care. There were parents that I talked to. There are teachers I got into team meeting with. I have leaders and supervisors that I report to. And at home, I have parents and I have my family and my wife, right? There's so many different pieces. And in my mind, for so long, I feel like if I need to have peace in my life, I have to go control other people. If everybody just listen to me, we'll have peace, right? I was so arrogant to think that I know what is best. And for a long time, I operated like that because I want to control what's not controllable. And as the world began to add, I began to realize there are a lot of things that's outside of my control. Traffic, economy, job markets, COVID, right? There's so many things outside of our control. And even with my own family, there's no way I can control them. They have their own thoughts, they have their own feelings. And because we're different, there's always going to be drama. And I just feel like this is so chaotic. Like, how is this even possible? But when you look at what Jesus has taught us, he's giving us peace so that we can bring peace to other people. This is really the way God thinks about peace in this world. Is that through him helping us to achieve inner peace, that we become people of peace and we bring peace to everyone that we encounter. So one of the things I had to learn when I first took this tool, my score was so low. Let me describe it to you. This was the second year into COVID. And so as a school, I was at work, I was dealing with, do we close the classroom? Do we keep it closed? Do we bring people back? Do we wear a mask or do we not wear a mask? I'm in conversation with other leaders, and then we're arguing like how many feet do we need to keep our students apart? How many kids can in the same pot? All those conversations. And also, how fast do we respond to parent emails? I don't feel any joy and peace in the work that I do. And because I was so stressed out and I let so many things impact my life, that I then become very agitated when I have conversation with my family. I was very short with my family, and like I said earlier, if I need to get that win, I can disregard my family. This is my family's, and I only talk about work with my family, and my relationship, my people score begin to go down. And because I was stressed, I didn't care about how clean my house was because I just want to get the work done. And so I neglected a lot of chores that I usually do to keep the house going. I feel like I wasn't providing enough for me. I feel like I put in so many hours of work, and yet this is what I'm getting paid at the time. Right? Though I began to question God about provision. So in that second year of the pandemic, my peace was so low in all of the area. And when I first encountered this tool, I then went on a couple of days of like, God, how could you do this to me? Because that was my story. It's how God, how could you do this to me and let my peace disappear from my life? Like you said, you are the Prince of Peace. You say you want to give me peace. What does that even look like? Then God, through His grace, introduced me, through the people in my life, introduced this tool to me. And my score was about, I think at the time was around 30%. Like my peace index was so low. It's like no wonder I was drowning. I was drowning in the chaos that's in this world. So God said, you gotta begin to calibrate. You gotta begin to move the score up. And so when you have inner peace, that becomes what you bring to the world. You bring peace to the world, and you can face the chaos that's coming at you. So I'm going to talk about ways you can calibrate each of this area. So depending on where your score is, you can pick your key indicators to kind of think about how you want to use some of these practical steps. Or if you have a lower score, like the lowest score that you want to dial up, and then we're going to talk through all 5 areas and ways you can calibrate that. And we're not going to do it on our own, because we all know that God is the Prince of Peace, right? Jesus is the Prince of Peace, and the peace come from the Lord. So it says that the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your heart and mind in Christ Jesus. We're going to do this, and as believers, we do this with Jesus. We're not going to do this alone. Okay, we're doing this with Jesus, and we're going to begin to calibrate our peace, because when it comes to helping our children, which is what we're going to get to, like as parents who are watching this, where you're participating in this, the goal is for you to increase your peace, and then you can give that to your kids, because we cannot give what we don't possess. We have to have peace so that we can give peace to someone else. Okay? So we're going to start with purpose. So the way you can think about how to dial up your purpose is, the first question for you is, do you know the unique gift that God has given you? What are some of your natural strengths that God has given you? So think about the tasks that you do throughout the day, where the problems you get to solve. What are some of the things that just come so naturally to you, that's so obvious to you? And sometimes, if you wanted this test, is what are some things that when you see other people do, you just get so frustrated. It's like, I can do that 10 times faster or better. Right? So that's your natural gift. Okay? So note some of the things that you're just naturally good at. Some people are just naturally good at making friends. Right? There are some connectors in this room, like you're just so good at connecting. Right? And there are some people who are really good at bringing care to people around them. There are people who are so good at making spreadsheets and checklists and making sure everything is done. Yeah, that's their natural strength. There's some people who can really, almost like they can predict the future. Like they're just like, I know this danger thing is coming, I gotta get prepared for that. I know this opportunity is coming, I'm gonna prepare for that. It's almost like they can see the future. There are some people who are just really good at problem solving, like you're so good at puzzles, chess, you're so good at putting pieces together to make a beautiful plan for people to execute. Everyone has a different gift. Do you know your gift? And then, when you know your gift, the next question is are you spending most of your time using your gift? Is your job or the work that you're doing at home, are you using that particular gift? Because when those two things match, you really then feel like, my life is very purposeful. God has given me a gift. I'm using it in this way to further the kingdom, and I'm really growing my business or my family or this job that I'm in. So purpose score, that's one way to really dial it up, is to know your strength and then match the work that you do with that strength. And sometimes that requires a little calibrating. And then there is sometimes you feel like there are things that's my weaknesses, and then you feel like you have to do. That's when you can get into really interesting conversations with the people around you. Because what's a weakness or like a learned skills can be someone's natural strength. So earlier I said, I'm really good at puzzles, I'm really good at problem solving. To get that win, I can disregard relationships. My wife is the opposite. My wife is really good at knowing, she has like spidey sense of how people are doing without them actually telling me. And then she can really just take in a lot of a voice or a lot of different opinions, and she can take in, and then you just feel like she's just 100% tuned into you. Everyone she meets gave me the same feedback, saying, how can she focus so well and know, like, it's almost like she can know like what's in my heart without me having to say it. Like, that's a natural gift that she has. Now, the way we calibrate that is I really don't like to spend a lot of time with people. That's just my personality. So then sometimes I have to ask her, what is something I need to say or do to make people know that I care about them without me feeling like I really care about them. And that's how we calibrate. She said, well, you do these 3 things. I know you cannot do everything that I do. You do these 3 things. You make eye contact. You smile and you nod. And I do that. That's how she introduced me to her family. Because I was so nervous. She was afraid I was going to be so rude, because my tendency is I don't really care about people like on the outside if I can just focus on the win. Okay, that's my tendency. And then she helped me and say, David, look at their eyes, like make eye contact, smile and nod. That's all I need you to do. She helped me with that. So we train each other, we help each other out, and that's where gifts can be really helpful. Do you know your strength and do more of that? How can you give your strength to help someone else? And that's their weaknesses, and that's how you dial up your purpose, is matching what you do with the strength and know what you need to delegate and ask for help. Okay, so that's a couple ways to dial up your purpose. The next part, we're going to talk about dialing up people. Really, when it comes to relationships, there's 2 things we gotta calibrate. One is support. At times, some people just need some encouragement, some care. Some people just need some resources, some connections even. At times, to keep that relationship going, you also need to challenge them. Hey, I know you can do better, or like you can do this faster, or like this is a way you can be more efficient and effective. I know you can do better. When you have relationship with people, you want to be both support and challenge. Our tendency is that with one person, we're gonna lean heavy on one side, like either a lot of support and not a lot of challenge. And with another person, you might bring a lot of challenge and not enough support. When it comes to my mother, I usually bring a lot of support. Like, Mom, what do you need? I'll help you with this. But there's things that she says and do that I don't feel is appropriate. But sometimes I don't have the courage to challenge her. So one of the things to calibrate relationship, my mom actually felt I was hiding something from her the whole time. Because there are things I was afraid to say to her, and she can detect it. So one time she asked me, David, what are you really thinking? Then I finally said, Mom, what you said about this was inappropriate, it's just not good. And then we actually got into a really good conversation because I brought up that challenge. But for a long time, she thought like I didn't want to have a relationship with her because I just catered to her, and like I wasn't being honest, I wasn't being myself with her. So sometimes we can lean too much on support without the challenge, so we gotta bring challenge to that relationship. On the other end, when I was a principal and I was working with my assistant principal, I bring a lot of challenge. You gotta do this, and that. You gotta have it done by the end of the week. and then I don't bring a lot of support, and there was a lot of resentment. Until my assistant principal said to me, David, I don't enjoy working for you. I was like, wow, you're very bold, number one. But what do you mean? He's like, I know you get in early, and then by the time I see you, like you're probably already in your work for about 45 minutes or so, and then you don't greet me, you don't say hi, you just tell me what to do. Like I haven't even settled in, I haven't even put down my stuff. You just dominated the conversation with a lot of challenges. You're on my case all the time. It would be nice if you say good morning once in a while, wait for me to grab a cup of coffee, then I'm ready to have a conversation with you. That was a shocking realization for me. Then I need to dial up support with this particular colleague. So I learned to say good morning, how are you doing? How much time do you need? 5 minutes? Great, I'll come back. Right? So that's how I make sure I dial up my people. So support and challenge. So take a look at the top three or 4 names on your list. Think about, no, in my interaction with this people, with this particular person, do I need to dial up support or do I need to dial up a little challenge? Because everybody's going to be a little different. Do you need to dial up support or challenge? And this works for kids too, right? Kids need a lot of love and care. At the same time, we're going to say, hey, you can do better. You're an older kid now. You can do this now, right? We challenge kids a lot as well. So we're going to balance that support and challenge. So the kids feel like, oh, I'm loved. At the same time, like, I can do more, right? That's how they really grow. So we want to balance both. So that's how you can dial up your people's score, is by thinking about support and challenge. Okay, and then in terms of personal health, there are kind of 3 categories I mentioned earlier. There's the physical health, mental health, and then your spiritual health. And really this comes down to your habits. We talk about what are some habits that you have when it comes to eating, exercise, or reading, or journaling, and resting. For Christians and believers, sometimes we talk about, do you have Sabbath and rest? And spiritual health, how's your Bible reading, devotions, those type of things. It's really about habits. What habits are we building? So if you need some kind of support in this area, think about these 3 categories: physical health, mental health, as well as spiritual health. Which one do you need to dial up? Do you want to dial up? What behaviors, what practice, what habits do you need to put in place? This is usually the place where I admit for a very long time that I always, in New Year, January 1st, I will make like a sweeping declaration of like, this is my New Year resolution. This year I want to do this. I want to like wake up at 5 in the morning and work out for an hour and then 7 days a week, right? I want to get better at doing this. And usually by February, I abandon that plan completely. So when it comes to habits, what I have learned is go for consistency and go for kind of give yourself a year to grow that habit rather than like making dramatic sweeping declaration of change, because that doesn't usually work. Okay, so think about something that you want to incorporate and you want to try it once, try it twice, and then help you to just show up. So that goes for your physical health as well as your mental health as well as your spiritual health. Okay, so those are a couple of ways for you to dial up your personal health. When it comes to provision, this is sometimes the hardest conversation to have with ourselves, is how we are managing the resources that God has given us. And if you are married or in a family, having finance conversations with spouse can be challenging. And as my wife and I talk about provision, we realize this is one of the topic that really breaks up a couple. Right? My wife is a marriage family therapist. She does this for a living, and she talks to people about relationships. And really, this is definitely an area of provision. Talking about money is definitely something that brings up a lot of feelings, as well as just uncomfortable. Right? Because I think for a lot of people who grew up in the church, talking about money sometimes can feel like really bad. Right? I gotta be selfless. I gotta give and not talk about my needs. And sometimes we suppress those feelings. So being able to bring that out to a conversation itself can actually bring just the provision score up. Having conversation about money in marriage or in your family relationship can actually dial up your provision score. Just having a conversation, having a clear understanding of what our money values are. And then the other way you can dial up the provision score is think about what's actually needed. What's the need versus want? And I think when I first did this exercise, I list out a lot of things I want, but when I actually think of things I actually need to survive, I had more than enough. Just going through that exercise, thinking about how I'm spending my money, just looking at my bank statement and say, oh, this is a need, this is a want, just doing that exercise actually bring a lot of gratitude. Because I say, oh, God actually gave me more than enough for my needs. Sure, I don't have all the things I want, and that's okay. Right? So just having that understanding, and then get into a conversation. Well, if these are the things that God is meeting me in my needs, what else can I use the money for the things I want? What do I want to contribute to? We actually talk about giving and how do we increase our generosity as a family. That actually bring a lot of joy. Oh, God, not only God's meeting my needs and our family's needs, He's giving us the ability to go bless other people. And our provision score continue to increase. The last thing is place. The ways you can dial up this particular score, it starts with taking a kind of a mental picture of your current living space. What are some things you want to change? What will bring peace to your physical space? Now, for some of us in this room, simply clearing your desk can bring a lot of peace, right? To put all our laundry in one place, or our kids put all their laundry in one place, like that can bring a lot of peace. So notice what brings peace and how you can tweak your environment is one way to dial up that score. My wife and I when we first moved into the place that we're in now, we actually just spent a few minutes sitting on each of the spots, like a chair or a couch. It's like, how much peace do we feel in this place? We moved some things around just to talk about how does the space make us feel. And then, if you're in a family and you're sharing spaces with people, having conversation about what brings peace, and everyone has their corner, that really help as well. I was working with this particular family, and it's a friend as well. At that time, my friend has a 5-year-old, and they're living in this one-bedroom apartment. And they were kind of all over the place. And he just told me, like, David, one day, he just told me, like, I don't feel peace at home. And then we're just getting into the conversation, we're discovering why that is. And he said something that's really profound. He said, my daughter just invades my study space all the time. Like, I'm trying to sit with the word, I'm trying to prepare for my message. He's a pastor. He's like, trying to prepare a message for Sunday, but his daughter just running all over the place. And I told him, have you thought that the reason your daughter is running all over the space because she doesn't have a space of her own? She said, I never thought about that. I was like, what would happen if you designate a corner of the house for your daughter? And then we can just move these 2 shelves to say, hey, this is your domain, that you are in charge to taking care of it, make sure it's in order. Just see what happens. And then we just sit there, we continue our conversation. We move the furniture, we just continue our conversation. What was interesting is his daughter stopped running around in the house. Take a look at that space. And then she looked at her dad. He said, this is my space? Dad's just like, yeah. And she went in and she started cleaning that space. And she wrote her name on a piece of paper and put it on the desk. It's like, this is mine. Later on, I check in with my friend. My friend saying, oh, I actually have a space. My daughter can work in her space. I work on my desk. We have our space that we take care of. That brought a lot of peace. So it's just that little change in having a conversation about peace, about place, brings a lot of peace. Okay? So thus, think about your spaces in your family. Think about different rooms in your house. What is one thing, one tweak you can make to make your house have more peace for you? Having that conversation with the Lord is very insightful. Okay. So we kind of went through that. I know I talk a whole lot. So I'm going to give you about a minute or so. Kind of look at which area that you want to focus on. You want to just start working on that today. And what is like one specific task or thing you would do to begin to dial up that number. Okay, I'm going to give you a minute. Just kind of self-reflect. What's come to you? What's something you want to execute right away? And again, if you feel comfortable sharing with the person next to you, I'm inviting you to do so. Let's take about a minute. All right. And this tool is helpful because you can take this assessment once today. You can take it a week from now. You can take it a month from now. And you can kind of begin to see where your peace is. Kind of taking a snapshot. And there are so much, hopefully you feel like there's a lot I can actually do to dial out my peace. It can be a little overwhelming. So give yourself time. And when it comes to calibrating peace, these are kind of the steps I usually go to. And I've been doing this for a little while. It already started with calling up. I'm thinking about what God has called me to be the person of peace. Right? That's the challenge that God has given us, right? I am going to give you peace, and then I want you to be a person of peace. So I'm calling myself up. And the way I personally do it, and not everybody does it this way, is I look at myself in the mirror in the morning, and I say, David, you're a person of peace. God's created you to be a person of peace. Sometimes I do that. Some of the people that I do this work with, they will journal. They'll say, God has called me to be, like they'll just repeat that sentence. I am a person of peace. It's calling ourselves up. It's like God has given us this calling. This like we need to be a person of peace. So there's a calling up piece. And then there's calibrating, right? We talk about 5 circles. I'm not going to do all 5 at one time. I'm going to focus on one area. I'm going to focus on one task. I'm going to do it for a little while. So usually I do like either a 7-day challenge or a 30-day challenge. And then I begin to calibrate my peace. Like taking person, for example. If there's a person that God is inviting me to connect with, I'm going to do it for 7 days. I'm going to connect with that person, and then I determine with the Lord how often I'm going to reach out to this person, or if there's someone I see every day at work, how am I going to show up in those relationships? Doing small tweaks every day, and then enjoy that result at the end. So calibrating peace, one tiny step at a time. And then there is examine. At the end of the day, I will spend a few minutes just kind of think about, okay, I'm calibrating this particular area. I'm calibrating my relationship with this particular person. And how did I do today? If I feel like I did pretty good, I'll give myself a pat on the back and say, hey, good job. Like God has called me up. I had this plan, and then I did it. And sometimes I failed. Right? There's going to be days where we want to be the person of peace, and just we didn't. And that's okay. But recognize, I didn't do this. What got in the way of that? I wasn't ready to engage with this person, or like something else was bothering me. Okay, what can I do tomorrow to remove that hurdle so I can try it again tomorrow? So examine. And once you kind of do that work at night, you just rest. You know that you're meeting God's calling. You're trying to be a person of peace. You have listen to the Lord and work with Him, calibrate peace, and then you examine your day, you can go to bed and feel like, okay, I am moving towards peace. You can actually enjoy rest. Before I had this tool, I would lay in bed and think about all the things I could have done and didn't do, all the responsibilities I should have done, and where all the missed opportunities. But when I've done the examine, I've done it, I've set the goal for the day, now I can go to bed, I can actually rest in the Lord, and that is sweet, right? It's like I actually have peace at night when I go to bed. And I want to end tonight with what's called a core process. A core process is a reflection process. Tonight, as we talked about peace, we talk about how God sees peace and how we can be the person of peace. We want to call attention to what is God calling your attention to. Do you need to pay attention to your purpose? Do you need to pay attention to your people, or your place, provision, or personal health? What is God calling you to call your attention to? Then you want to own it. Why is this happening? Why is this something that God is showing me? What is God really trying to tell me? Why is this happening? You want to own it. And then you want to respond. So I give you a few ideas to get started. So that's how you respond. I plan to call this person, or I'm going to go clean my room, or whatever it is. How are you going to respond to it? You have a plan for it. And then you're just going to go and execute that. So this is the core process. You call it, you own it, you respond to it, and you execute it. So once you do that, you begin to see that your peace will increase, and then you have peace to give to the people around you, to give to your kids, and you can begin to teach some of these tools with the students, with your kids. The friends I mentioned earlier, he began to teach some of the tools to his kids. His kid is now 2nd grade, and she'll tell you, why do I need to do this particular homework? Tell me why I need to have a purpose for this homework. And then she'll say, hey, Dad, I feel like my relationship with Grandma is not so great. What can we do together? These are insightful conversations now my friend gets to enjoy with his daughter because they have this shared language. So the tools I'm sharing today, they're easy to teach. Yeah, even young students can begin to get some exposure to it. So imagine your family can process and talk about peace together, and you and your family can become a family of peace. So that's my hope for you. I think we have a few minutes for questions if you have any. But thank you so much for letting me share with you this evening. Yeah. If you have questions, you can ask, or I can hang out around here, and yeah, if you want to come up and chat. All right? Thank you so much. Oh, yes? Yeah, so this is it's a core process. It's a reflection tool. So C stands for call it, right? What's something that God's calling your attention to? What do you need to pay attention to? And usually sometimes when God calls you to attention to something, I don't immediately own it. It's like, that's someone else's fault, right? So owning it, what's my part in it? Why is this happening? How am I contributing to this thing that God is calling me to? And then I need to create a plan for response. How am I going to respond to that? What habits do I need to change, or what do I need to incorporate in my life? And once I have that response plan, then I go execute it. So that's E for execute. So then starting tomorrow, I will go and execute it. So that's called the core process. Yeah.